Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're slowing things down a little bit. We're settling in for what feels more like a quiet coffee shop conversation. Just two colleagues sitting down after a particularly long week. I'm James, and if you've been listening for a while, you know my background is very much in the trenches. I spent years in field service ops, wearing the boots, dispatching the vans, dealing with those calls at 5:00 p.m. on a Friday. I know the chaos.
And I'm Amy. My background is a little different. I come from the side of operational strategy and systems. I'm usually the one looking at the flowcharts and the data, asking why the chaos happens in the first place, and maybe more importantly, what that chaos is actually doing to the human beings in charge of it.
And that is exactly where we're going today. Usually when we talk about field service management, the conversation immediately goes one way, straight to the tech. We talk about features, buttons, GPS dots on a map.
The spec sheet.
The spec sheet, exactly. But today, looking at the research you've brought in on this platform, NexiServe, we're doing something different. We're putting the buttons to the side.
Yeah.
We're not here to review a product.
No, not at all. We're here to unpack the invisible pressures of the industry. The core question we're looking at is, well, it's quite haunting, and I think it will resonate. It's this. Why, with multiple software systems for scheduling and billing, do field service leaders still feel completely exhausted and anxious?
That hits home. I think anyone running a service business knows that feeling. You have the apps, you have the dashboard, but you still feel like the whole thing might just collapse if you look away for 10 minutes.
Precisely. And the premise we're exploring from this source material is that a platform like NexiServe exists not because the industry lacks tools. There are plenty of tools. It exists because of the human cost of holding it all together manually.
So our mission today is to look at the industry not from a systems perspective, but from a human one. The emotional, the cognitive toll of the job. So grab a coffee and let's get into it.
Let's start with the environment itself. I think before we can understand the stress, we have to define why field service is so uniquely stressful compared to, say, an office job.
Oh, it's a completely different world.
It is, but let's articulate why. In a typical office, you have proximity, you can see your team, you have informal communication. If someone's struggling, you can usually just tell, you can walk over. But field service, all the work happens outside the central office.
Miles away, sometimes hours away.
Exactly. The second a technician drives off the lot, that proximity is gone. The organization has to rely entirely on systems, processes, and, well, trust. You are effectively blind.
And just to ground this for everyone listening, the source material lists specific industries here. We're talking fire protection, life safety, security, facilities management.
Right.
Electrical, mechanical, HVAC, refrigeration.
Right.
And especially those really compliance-driven operations.
The common thread there isn't just that they use vans, it's that they share a reality. Distributed teams, mobile work, constant change, and, this is key, the need to prove outcomes long after the work is done.
That part is crucial. And this leads to one of the most interesting concepts in these notes, the coordination layer.
Yes. This is a massive aha moment in the text. The source argues that in most businesses, even ones with fancy software, humans are the coordination layer.
Okay, I want to stop on this because I think a lot of people assume the software is the coordination layer. Isn't that what we pay for?
You'd hope so, but think about the day-to-day. The software records data. It holds a schedule. But who makes sure nothing was missed? Who checks that the technician filled out the safety form correctly? Who remembers that this client needs a special code on their invoice or they won't pay?
The person in the office. The ops manager.
Exactly. That responsibility is almost never written down. It just lives in people's heads. There's a structural gap. Traditional systems, they show you what was entered. They're passive. They don't carry responsibility. They don't show you what should have happened but didn't.
That is such a good distinction. It records the action, but it doesn't judge the quality or completeness.
Right. So humans have to compensate. We bridge that gap between what the system captured and what actually needs to happen. We remember, we check, we chase, we intervene, we become the glue. And being the glue day in and day out is just exhausting.
It really is. It's draining. And I want to pivot to what that exhaustion feels like. Because the source material, it talks about the emotional core of this. And it uses a word that most field service veterans wouldn't use about themselves.
Fear.
Yeah, fear. Now, most guys I know in HVAC or fire protection wouldn't say, I'm scared. It's a tough industry.
Of course not, but look at the stakes. In these industries, a mistake isn't just a data error. It's not a spreadsheet that's off by a few dollars. It's a failed audit. It's an insurance dispute. It's legal exposure.
Or worse,
Yeah.
in life safety, it could mean someone gets hurt.
Exactly. The consequences are real. So the source argues that leaders don't admit to being afraid. Instead, that fear manifests as something else. It manifests as vigilance.
Vigilance, that's the word.
And think about what that looks like. It's constant double-checking. It's a reluctance to delegate because you don't trust anyone else to care as much as you do. It's that background hum of anxiety that something is missing.
It's that feeling when you wake up at 3 in the morning thinking, did we send the certification for the Main Street job? Did the tech definitely close that valve?
That is exactly it. And the tragedy is, traditional systems don't fix this. They store the documents, sure, but they don't guarantee readiness, they don't enforce correctness, they just log the action. So the fear remains because the system isn't taking the weight off your shoulders, it's just a digital filing cabinet.
So the whole premise here, the why behind a platform like NexiServe, is to prevent that uncertainty from existing in the first place.
Yes, it's about ensuring safety and compliance aren't dependent on human memory or some last-minute scramble. It's about building a system that carries the responsibility so the human doesn't have to.
Which brings us to the cost of carrying that responsibility. Let's talk about time. Because in this industry, time management is usually just code for work faster.
Right, get more jobs done in a day. But the source challenges that idea completely. It says the real cost isn't measured in hours, it's cognitive load.
Cognitive load. That sounds a bit academic.
Hmm.
What does that mean for a service manager?
Think of your brain like a computer with limited RAM. Every time you have to remember something, check something, worry about something, you're using up that RAM. Cognitive load is just mental exhaustion. It's not the physical work. It's the energy required to keep track of all the open loops.
Open loops, I love that term. All the unclosed tasks just floating around in your brain.
Exactly. It's remembering unfinished tasks. It's having to reconstruct events after the fact because the data wasn't captured right. It's that constant context switching. The phone rings, you handle an emergency, then you have to try and remember where you were on that complex quote.
The source lists some really painful examples. Like in facilities management, the cost is the constant follow-up. Did you fix the leak? Which leak? The one on the 3rd floor.
It's that back and forth that just eats up your day. Or take HVAC, the repeat call-out. Sending a tech back to a site because he didn't have the right part.
Which is wasted money, obviously.
No, it is. But look at the mental load. Now the manager has to reschedule the tag, apologize to an angry client, figure out why the part wasn't there in the first place. That one mistake creates this whole ripple effect of mental work.
And in security, it's interruptions from escalations. Or fire services, that
Yes.
late-night anxiety before an audit we mentioned.
The solution the source points to is a system that coordinates and verifies work as it happens, not forcing you to be a detective at the end of the month trying to piece together what happened 3 weeks ago.
Reconstructing events. That phrase gives me shivers. I've spent entire weekends doing that for billing because the paperwork wasn't right.
And that leads us perfectly into the next pressure point. We have to talk about money.
Right. Now, you'd think field service is all about getting more work, more revenue. If the phone is ringing, we're good.
But the source makes a fascinating point. It says the problem for most established businesses isn't a lack of work, they're busy. The problem is financial uncertainty.
What's the distinction there? How can you be busy but also uncertain?
Well, you can be incredibly busy but still cash poor if you have delayed invoices because of incomplete documentation, or if you have constant scope disputes.
Oh, the scope dispute. I thought this was included. No, that's extra.
Exactly. Or service level agreements. If you can't prove you met the SLA, you could face a penalty. The source calls this the proof barrier.
The proof barrier.
It means your revenue depends entirely on your ability to demonstrate that the work was done correctly. And when that proof is hard to gather because it's on a piece of paper in a van somewhere, money becomes unpredictable.
And nothing stresses a business owner more than not knowing if the cash is actually coming in.
Correct. It's not about greed. It's that unpredictability threatens stability. You can't hire, you can't invest, you can't relax.
There's a relational cost to this too, isn't there? It's not just the bank balance. It ripples out.
A huge relational cost. When that coordination layer fails, when humans drop the ball because they're overloaded, relationships suffer. Customers escalate because they feel uncertain. They don't know if a building is safe, so they start yelling.
And then the technicians feel blamed for it.
They do. They feel like they're working their tails off, but the office is always yelling about paperwork. Where's the form? Where's the signature? And the admins, their whole job just becomes chasing, nagging people for information.
It creates this toxic friction inside the company. Everyone's just annoyed at everyone else.
It does. And in industries like security, professionalism is the product. If your operations are chaotic, your product looks bad. The source talks about needing a shared operational truth.
A shared operational truth. I like that. It stops the blame game because the system is the referee.
Exactly. Everyone's looking at the same reality. Here's the photo. Here's the timestamp. No arguing.
So let's look at the picture we've painted. We've got fear, mental exhaustion, financial unpredictability, strained relationships. This leads to a very specific behavior in leaders. The source calls it the trap of control.
This is deep. This touches on identity. As the pressure builds, leaders respond by trying to hold on tighter.
The super manager.
Right. The thought is, I have to do it myself because if I don't, it'll go wrong. Control collapses into constant involvement. Leaders can't disconnect. They can't go on vacation without their phone glued to their hand.
I've been there. You feel like a martyr. You think you're being heroic working 80 hours a week.
And strangely, that becomes part of your identity. I'm the one who holds it all together. But it's exhausting, and here's where it gets really interesting for the business. It creates a fear of growth.
Wait, fear of growth? Everyone says they want to grow.
Do they? Subconsciously, maybe not. If your current system relies on you personally checking every single invoice, then adding 5 more technicians just feels like a nightmare.
Oh, I see. More volume just means more chaos.
Exactly. More jobs, more clients, more exposure. If the system relies on humans as the glue, adding more weight just breaks the glue. So businesses subconsciously hit the brakes. They resist growth because it feels dangerous to their sanity.
That is a massive insight. You're not limiting growth because of the market. You're limiting it because you're just tired.
Precisely. The goal, according to the philosophy in these notes, is to provide control without constant presence, to allow leaders to trust the operation without having to hover over it.
Autonomy.
Autonomy, getting your life back, being able to go to your kid's soccer game and not check your phone every 2 minutes.
So let's bring this all home. We've unpacked the pain. We've looked at the why. What is the ultimate outcome here? If you solve the coordination layer problem, if you remove the human from being the glue, what do you get?
The source summarizes it in one word. And it's not efficiency and it's not synergy. It is relief.
Relief. That's a powerful word.
When survival fears drop, when the mental load decreases, when money becomes predictable, people feel relief. And the source makes a great point that calm operations aren't a luxury. They're the foundation of sustainable performance.
It redefines the product entirely. It's not about selling software features. It's about selling peace of mind.
No. And here's the definition the source gives, which I think wraps this up so well. It defines NexiServe as a human-centered operational coordination ecosystem.
That's a mouthful, but break it down.
It's designed to carry responsibility and enforce standards. That's the key phrase. It removes that invisible pressure so people no longer have to hold everything together themselves.
It's defined by what it gives back to the human.
Yes. It gives you your brain back. It gives you your evenings back.
I love that. It's so easy to get lost in the tech, the specs, the cloud. But at the end of the day, it's about the people running the show.
Absolutely. It just highlights that operations is, at its core, a human game. And if the humans are broken, the operation is broken.
It sure is. Well, this has been a fascinating look under the hood, not of the software, but of the industry itself.
It's been a heavy discussion, but a really important one.
So here is a final thought for you to carry into your week. We've talked a lot about the energy you spend holding things together, the vigilance, the checking, the worry. So ask yourself this: are you running your operation, or is the mental load of your operation running you?
That is the question.
And more importantly, what would you do with all that energy if you didn't have to spend it on just keeping the lights on? What could you build? What could you improve?
That... Spare yourselves out there.